List of issues in relation to the initial report of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. This answers the United Nations questions about the United Kingdom. Background. The United Kingdom government, UK government, agreed to the United Nations, UN, Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities in 2009. A convention. This is an agreement between countries saying what they will do to protect people's rights. This convention says things like you have a right to an education and health care, like people who are not disabled. Countries that have agreed to use the convention have to tell the UN how they have done this. The UK government is telling the UN in August 2017. And this report is part of that process. The UN sent us a list of questions about the Convention in March. This report sets out the government's answers to those questions. Introduction. 1. The UK government welcomes its first review about the Convention. We are happy to talk about how disability rights have improved in the UK. 2. The UK government uses the social model of disability, like the Convention. That is why we say disabled people and not people with disabilities. 3. The UK government has encouraged disabled people and their organisations to take part in the review. A. Purpose and General Obligations, Articles 1 to 4. The UN Committee asked questions about how the UK government protects disabled people's rights. UN Committee. This is a group of people that check what a country is doing to protect people's rights. Four. The UK government thinks human rights are important. 5. By talking to disabled people and their organisations, it understands disabled people better. The government shares this information with other countries. 6. The Convention is not part of UK law. We haven't done this with any other conventions either. 7. Disabled people's rights are set out in the Equality Act 2010 in England, Scotland and Wales. In Northern Ireland, the Disability Discrimination Act protects disabled people from discrimination. 8. UK law says a disabled person is someone with a problem with their body or mind. The problem usually lasts longer than a year. It stops the person getting on with day-to-day things like eating, walking, or washing. 9. The law protects disabled people from discrimination. This is when someone is treated unfairly because of something. 10. The law also says that employers, service providers, and others may have to make changes to the way they work and to their buildings to make it easier for disabled people to get a job, use services, or buy things. 11. The UK government has guidelines saying they must consult with everyone who might be affected by a new policy. This includes disabled people. 12. The UK government is committed to providing high-quality healthcare for everyone. This includes the care provided for people at the end of their lives. The Learning Disabilities Mortality Review is looking specifically at deaths of people with learning disabilities to improve the care they receive. B. Specific rights. Equality and non-discrimination, Article 5, and Women and Children with Disabilities, Articles 6 and 7. The UN Committee asked questions about how disabled women and children and disabled people from different racial backgrounds are protected in the UK. 13. The Equality Act 2010 protects against direct and indirect discrimination resulting from age, disability, race, and sex. It includes sections on employment, provision of services, exercise of public functions, and education. Part of the Equality Act 2010 has not been implemented yet. This part is about making reasonable adjustments in specific properties. Work is underway to review implementation. 14. Across the UK, strategies are in place to protect women and girls from violence and abuse, including disabled women and girls. In Scotland, the law to protect women and girls is being strengthened. (15) Low-income families are supported financially by the government. This includes child tax credits, disabled facilities grants, and disability living allowance. Other support includes free childcare for disabled children aged 2 to 4 years old, and help with the cost of attending healthcare services. 16. Schools in the UK are required by law to have a plan which includes ways of tackling bullying. It is also against the law for any schools to discriminate against, harass, or victimise a disabled child. This includes admissions and the way disabled people are educated. Parents can appeal to specialist tribunals if they are dissatisfied with levels of care or education provided. "17. The UK government believes that it is important for disabled people and their families to be involved in decisions about their lives and their care. Reforms brought in by the Children and Families Act 2014 makes local authorities involve disabled children and young people and their parents in discussions and decisions about their support. Awareness raising. Article 8. The UN Committee asked how the UK government deals with negative attitudes towards disabled people, especially for people with learning disabilities, dementia, and mental health conditions. 18. The UK government is doing lots of work to change people's attitudes towards disabled people. These include Disability Confident, which encourages employers to employ disabled people, autism awareness training for teachers, disability awareness training for staff in train stations and in bus companies, awareness campaigns about dementia, including increasing the number of dementia friends. Judges have access to training to help them communicate better with disabled people. Accessibility, Article 9. The UN Committee asked what the UK is doing to make places and information accessible for disabled people. "19. The UK government is committed to making buildings more accessible. Building regulations say new buildings must meet access standards. If new buildings do not include these building standards, the local authorities can make the builders remove or change the building work. "20. The UK government is working with professionals in the building sector to use more inclusive design. Which means that buildings are designed to be accessible from the start, to stop making changes later. (21) Transport is being made more accessible. The law now says that buses should have audio and visual information about their routes. The law now also says that taxi drivers must help more disabled people to use their services. Train stations are also being made more accessible for people with mobility issues. (22) The UK government is also doing work to make all government websites more accessible for disabled people to use. Equal recognition before the law, Article 12, and access to justice, Article 13. The UN Committee asked how the UK government ensures that disabled people are supported to have their beliefs, preferences, and views respected by the law. 23. The Mental Capacity Act 2005 says how people should be supported to make decisions wherever possible. It also says when a decision might be made for someone who is unable to make them for themselves. 24. Civil legal aid helps people to access justice through the courts in serious cases, including discrimination cases, and disputes with local authorities about community care services. Civil legal aid can be used by disabled people to pay for some reasonable adjustments, like support to communicate well with their solicitor. 25. If a disabled person is called in to serve jury duty, the courts have a duty to provide reasonable adjustments wherever possible. However, support workers or sign language interpreters are not allowed to be in the room where the jury makes decisions. So, some disabled people are not able to be a juror. Liberty and security of the person, Article 14. Freedom from torture or cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment, Article 15. Freedom from exploitation, violence and abuse, Article 16. The UN Committee asked a range of questions about how disabled people are protected from being forced into institutions or being treated badly or exploited. They also asked how disabled people are protected from hate crimes. 26. The UK government wants disabled people to be able to live independently and feel they are part of their community. It is also important that disabled people can choose how they live and how they get health care. 27. The Mental Capacity Act 2005 says there are safety measures that have to happen before someone else can make decisions that affect a disabled person. The UK government is thinking about whether any changes need to be made. 28. Northern Ireland is taking steps to have similar safety measures. 29. It is important that disabled people who are cared for at home get treated well. There are new laws that say that you can't treat disabled people badly in their home. 30. In Scotland, they have places of safety for people experiencing severe mental health conditions. These are staffed by people who understand mental health. 31. Disabled people should only be restrained when there is an actual need for this to happen, such as for safety reasons. Steps have been taken to reduce the use of force or restraint on disabled people in places like prisons, hospitals, young offender institutions, and secure children's homes. 32. If a disabled person dies when they have been arrested by the police, or in prison, or when using health services, then it is looked at to see what happened and to stop it happening again. 33. The law protects disabled people from being the victim of disability hate crime. Across the UK, steps have been taken to stop disability hate crimes. 34. The UK government has a plan to reduce hate crime against all people, including disabled people. More disabled people are telling the police when they think they've been the victim of a crime. The police and courts are getting more training about hate crime. 35. Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland are also tackling hate crimes. They're doing this by helping to prevent hate crimes from happening, making more people aware of what hate crime means, supporting the people affected and the community where they live. Protecting the integrity of the person, Article 17. The UN Committee asked about whether it might be possible for someone else to decide that a disabled woman or girl should have a medical treatment that could leave them unable to have children. (36) All people, including disabled people, should agree to any medical examination or treatment. There are safety measures that have to happen before someone else can make a decision that affects a disabled person if they are unable to make decisions for themselves. Liberty of movement and nationality, Article 18. The UN Committee asked when the UK plans to remove its reservation around travelling to and from the UK. A reservation is when a country that is signed up to the Convention does not want a particular part of it to apply to their country. 37. The UK government wants to make its own decisions about people travelling to the UK. The UK government has no plan to remove its reservation at the moment. Living independently and being included in the community. Article 19. The UN Committee asked questions about how disabled people are helped to live independently, such as living in their own home. 38. Across the UK, disabled people can choose how they live and how they are cared for. 39. More disabled people are being helped to live independently. Care can be provided at home unless the disabled person needs to go to a place that gives more help, such as a care home. 40. A house can be changed to make it easier for a disabled person to live at home. There is help to pay for these changes. Freedom of expression and opinion and access to information. Article 21. The UN Committee asked about how someone who can't hear or has bad hearing is helped to take part in everyday activities like going to school. 41. The Equality Act 2010 says that help should be given to people who are deaf or have bad hearing. This could include using a British Sign Language interpreter to do things like going to work or getting health care. 42. Most children who are deaf or have bad hearing go to mainstream schools. They get more help, such as teachers that are trained in teaching people who are deaf or have bad hearing. 43. Northern Ireland is working to share more information about being deaf and giving British Sign Language and Irish Sign Language training. 44. Scotland has a British Sign Language Act 2015 to help and make more people aware of British Sign Language. British Sign Language can be learnt at school. The Scottish Government is looking at how to have more British Sign Language interpreters who have good knowledge of things like health and justice. Education, Article 24. The UN Committee asked questions about the types of schools that disabled people go to, how they choose their school, and what help is given to disabled students. 45. Disabled children can go to a mainstream school or a special school. Parents of disabled children help to decide which type of school is best. 46. The UK government thinks that the choice of what type of school to go to is important. The UK has a reservation on this convention which supports this choice. There are no plans to remove this reservation at this moment. 47. Disabled children at mainstream schools across the UK are helped by trained teachers and staff who understand about having a disability. 48. When a disabled child decides to continue with their education, such as university, then help is given to help them attend and take part. The disabled student's allowance can be used to help pay for more specialist help. Health, Article 25. The UN Committee asked a range of questions about health support for disabled people. This included how a decision is made to provide a medical treatment, how disabled people are helped to attend health services, and how health staff are trained to help disabled people. 49. The NHS says that it will help all people, including disabled people. There are ways that this is checked to make sure it happens. 50. All people, including disabled people, should agree before any medical treatment is done. There are safety measures that have to happen if someone else has to make a decision that affects a disabled person. '51. The people that give medical treatment, such as the National Health Service, NHS, follow rules about how disabled people can use their buildings. This could be things like helping someone who is in a wheelchair. 52. Disabled women can get information to help them learn more about sexual health and having children. In Scotland and Wales, more work is being done to improve this information and the help that is available. 53. There is training called Disability Matters that helps other people to know more about how to support disabled people. This is used by people that give health care to disabled people. Scotland is making changes to help people that support disabled people who have autism or a learning disability. 54. When a person is close to dying, the person and their family and friends decide if they want doctors to try to keep them alive. There are safety measures that have to happen before someone else can make decisions that affect a disabled person. 55. Disabled people should never feel so bad that they want to kill themselves. Things have been done across the UK to help to stop all people, including disabled people, from killing themselves. Work and Employment, Article 27. The UN Committee asked what is being done to make sure disabled people are treated fairly at work. 56. The Equality Act protects disabled people from being treated unfairly at work or when applying for a job. There are ways to get justice if an employer does not treat disabled people fairly. 57. An employer should provide anything needed to help a disabled person at work. This could be things like special equipment to do their job. There is some money to help employers to pay for some things that a disabled person needs at work. This is called access to work. 58. Things have been done across the UK to help more disabled people get a job or keep their job. Employers have been asked to give more disabled people jobs. Training is given to help disabled people learn the things they need to do a job. Adequate standard of living and social protection, Article 28. The UN Committee asked questions about the money that disabled people in the UK get to help them to pay for things like food and housing costs. 59. The UK government gives money to disabled people in the UK to help them to pay for things. These are called benefits and include things like personal independence payment and disability living allowance. 60. There are rules for who can get benefits. To get employment and support allowance, a person must show that their health or disability makes it hard for them to work and do everyday things. 61. There have been changes to some benefits, but protections have been made to help people that are vulnerable, such as disabled people. 62. When a policy is changed or a new policy made, the governments in the UK look at how this might affect people, including disabled people, so that it doesn't treat them unfairly. 63. Scotland plan to do some things differently to the UK government in how they help disabled people. 64. Disabled people who are a parent or parents that have a disabled child are supported to help their children achieve. This could be help in making decisions about their child's education or health. In Wales, there is support called Flying Start and Families First that gives support to disabled parents or parents of a disabled child. Participation in political and public life, Article 29. 65. Disabled people can vote to have their say in things like who runs the country. Help to do this is available and includes things like voting by post rather than travelling somewhere to vote, agreeing that someone else can vote for you, support for people that are blind or partially sighted when they go to vote. Participation in cultural life, recreation, leisure and sport, Article 30. 66. More disabled people are being encouraged to take part in sport. The people that run sports clubs must do everything they can to help disabled people to take part. More places that people go to watch sport are being built or changed in ways that will help more disabled people to go to watch. C. Specific obligations. Statistics and data collection, Article 31. 67. The governments in the UK collect information about how disabled people live their lives. This helps people to understand if disabled people are treated fairly. This includes information about disabled people's experience of things like education, health, employment, and how people that don't have a disability think about disabled people. International Cooperation, Article 32. 68. The UK government will make sure that it thinks about what leaving the European Union, also known as Brexit, will mean for disabled people. The same rules and laws that help disabled people will apply after Brexit. 69. The UK government is helping disabled people in other countries to have better lives. National Implementation and Monitoring, Article 33. 70. The UK government has the Office for Disability Issues, who work with the Minister for Disabled People. 71. The people that make new laws and policies, or change current ones, think about disabled people and listen to disabled people's views. 72. There are people that look at how the governments in the UK are supporting people to be treated fairly, including disabled people. They listen to disabled people and tell the UN what disabled people think. These are Equality and Human Rights Commission, EHRC, Scottish Human Rights Commission, Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission, Northern Ireland Equality Commission. Follow-up to proceedings under the optional protocol. 73. This response to the UN's questions shows that lots is being done to support disabled people in the UK. The UK government is meeting with the UN to talk more about this in August 2017.